Hi everyone, it's Anja here and I'm back with another video for Ophelia Talks. And today we are making the Gandy street poncho. I wanted to update the poncho and I wanted to make a modern version of it. And as you can see, this one is a square version and it is worn with a belt. So the way this poncho works is we are going to be making two identical panels, which we then will crochet together at the back. For the panels, we are going to make a loose and lacy fabric, and we are going to start with our fingertip to fingertip measurement. We are using this measurement because it is unique to everyone and it will ensure that your panel starts at the front of your leg, where your hand reaches to, and it goes over your shoulders, and then it will end at the back of your leg, where your hand also reaches to. And this is the kind of length I want to achieve. As you can see, it is longer than that. But of course, that is the characteristic of the fabric that we are creating. We are going to do long rows, but only a few of them, to achieve this drapey effect. So what do you need? I used 5 balls of Starcraft Special DK in the color denim. Now this yarn is prescribed for a 4 hook, but I am using a 6.5. This will ensure that we have a lovely lacy effect with our fabric that we are creating. I've got some stitch markers there to use, darning needle and scissors, of course. You may also want to look around your cupboard for a belt to wear with your poncho. So let's get started on the first panel. So you make a slip knot, insert your hook, and then you are going to start chaining. Now, as you know, once you put your stitches onto your chain, it will expand. So I did about 160 chains, and that was to just about 10-15 centimeters below my fingertip to fingertip measurement, and by the time I put all my stitches on, it was a little bit past it, but that's fine. So here I have just done an amount of stitches just for the tutorial, because obviously I have made my shawl, so I'm just going to do a short version for you. So you've done your either 160 chains or at least the length of your fingertip to fingertip measurement. Then you are going to chain 1. Now in this poncho we are going to use a turning chain. A turning chain of chain 1 or a turning chain of chain 2. These do not count as a stitch, okay, so you do them. This will allow you then turn and it will be clearer in the next rows, but they do not count. So they're just there to help you get the height that you need for your next stitch. And then this one here was my 160th stitch. So this is the one that we are going to be working in. Like I said, this one is just forgotten about. So we are going to get started by doing double crochets. So you get started in your last chain. So not the turning chain, and you do your double crochet. Now we have done our first double crochet. We have created our first V here, and this is going to be the last stitch that we have to do when we come back. So to help you remember that, I would suggest you put a stitch marker in that. It's long rows that you are doing, and it's easy to lose track of the shape of your panel of the last stitch of your row. So this helps enormously. So now we are going to do a whole row of double crochets. So into the next stitch to do your double crochet. So a double crochet is yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And this is how you are going to do your whole row, of course. As you can see, I am working with a very big hook. The yarn is not prescribed for this hook, so your movements and the way you are doing your stitches are going to have to be a little bit more careful, certainly in the beginning, to make sure you get used to it. Doing my last stitch here into my last chain. There we go. Okay, so we have now got our first row done, and it should be your fingertip to fingertip measurement, about 160 chains for me that was. Now we are going to do row 2. So we have now started a sequence. So first of all, you'll be doing a row of double crochets. Now you are going to be doing a row of treble crochets. So for starting a row of treble crochets, you are going to do 2 turning chains. Otherwise, it's just too low down. So we need the height for that one. Then you turn. And this obviously does not count. So we look down to see where this turning chain is coming out of, and it's this V here. So in that one, we are going to do the first treble. And a treble is where you yarn over twice, then you go into that very first stitch, you pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. That is a treble. This is the V that you have created with that treble, and once again, that V is going to be the stitch that you have to use as last when you come back. So I am going to put my stitch marker in there, so I remember that this is my last stitch, or yes, this will be my last stitch when I come back. So we've now done our first stitch of the round. This doesn't count. And now we are going to do a treble crochet in every stitch along the line. So you yarn over twice, insert into the next V, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we keep doing that. And yeah, look, see, again, it might look a little bit scraggly. It might look a little bit weird at the moment because you are using such a big hook, but you'll soon get used to it and you'll soon find that it looks a little bit better. But that's the kind of look we are going for, to be honest. And also, you will find, as you've seen, it's not that easy to do it. Look there, that's easier. See, it got a little bit easier for me. So yes, you have got to get used to it a little bit. And just for these first few rows, take your time so that you can get used to what you're doing, you know, working with the big hook and the thinner yarn. So I will see you at the end of the row. So I'm just getting to the end of my row. And of course, normally there would have been the question, which is my last stitch of the row? But of course I can see it because I've got the stitch marker in there. So that's where I am going to put my last treble crochet. There we go. Voila. And of course now I'm going to move it in a moment to put it on my next first stitch there. So we've done a row of double crochets, we've done a row of treble crochets. Now we are going to do a row of half double crochets. So do your turning chain, turn, yarn over, insert into that very first stitch with the turning chain coming out of it. Do your half double crochet straight away. Replace your stitch marker so that you know to do that one as your last one. And then you can keep on doing your half double crochets along your row. Half double crochet is yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the 3 loops on your hook. Now this sequence of 3 rows, so first of all a double crochet row, then a treble crochet row, and then a half double crochet row, you are going to repeat this one 3 times. So in the end you will have 9 rows. When you have done those 9 rows, you're going to come back and I'm going to give you a new sequence to follow so that we can incorporate the boxes rows. Of course, we'll need those boxes for our belt to go through, and it gives it a nice feature. So of course I've already finished my 3 rows here, or my half double crochet row. I've got my stitch marker here, so I know I have to do this stitch still. There we go. So you come back when you have your 9 rows. Okay, so now you're ready to get started on doing the sequence which will create the boxes. Now, of course, I've only done 3 rows here, but this is a sample. I'm just showing you how to do it. I did the 9 rows in my poncho. So row 1 for the second sequence, we are creating treble crochets. So we are going to do a chain 2 for our turning chain. Then we are going to turn, and now we are going to start doing our trebles. So yarn over twice and into that very first stitch, and you are going to do your treble. So of course this one here is your first V that you created, and you are going to be placing your stitch marker in there. And now, of course, you do a whole row of trebles. And I'm just doing the last stitch, the one with the stitch marker. There we go. So that's my first row of my boxes sequence. Now I'm going to turn, but we are still doing trebles, so we are turning with 2 chains. Turn. You do that first treble. Move your stitch marker. I mean, obviously, when you get used to it and you are sure that you're not going to forget which one is your first stitch, you don't need to do this, but, you know, better make sure you don't lose any stitches. So now we are ready to get started on a boxes row. So we've done a treble. Now we're going to do a chain. We're going to skip a stitch, and then you do a treble in the next stitch. There we go. First box made. Chain 1, skip 1, treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, and a treble in the next stitch. Now, if you're working with an even number of stitches, this should work out. I don't know how many stitches I've put on this sample, so I have no idea whether this is going to work out. We will see when we get to the end. But, oh no, yarn over twice, but it's only a 2 stitch repeat. So in a way, it wouldn't be too hard to just put an extra treble there, just to make up for your stitch count. You know, nobody's going to see that, and that's perfectly all right to do that. And of course, yes, it does work out, doesn't it? So I've got one stitch to skip here and the one to use here. Had you had 3 stitches, then I would just do 2 trebles in a row after skipping one. Okay, there we go. There we are. So this is our boxes row. And now we are going to do a row of treble crochets after a boxes row. So that's interesting as well. So let me show you. 2 chains, turn, and yet again we are doing that treble in that very first stitch, moving the stitch marker. So that you know where that stitch is. There we go. And now we are going to be doing 2 treble crochets in each box along. So you yarn over twice, insert into the box, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you are just simply placing them in the box. So 2 trebles in each box. And you will have noticed that with doing such tall stitches with a big hook, the yarn does flow quite quickly. There we go, let me show you. There we are, see? So I'm just going to continue to the end of my row and I will be back. So I'm at the end of my row and I'm just doing the last treble into that stitch with the stitch marker. There we go. See, that's where we're at now. And now we are going to do another row of trebles, and then our sequence starts again, and the sequence starts with a row of trebles, so we have 3 rows of trebles in between the boxes. So let's do that second row of trebles first. Just doing the last stitch, there we go. So really this is the sequence that you're going to repeat, and I repeated it 4 times because I have 4 rows of boxes. Now at the end I also added a 3rd row of trebles so that I ended in 3 rows of trebles. Now in total you are doing 25 rows, and adding that extra row of trebles makes it 26. Now that means the panel starts sort of in the middle of my back and it works its way to sort of the middle of my forearm here. So that's where I wanted it to end. If you want it shorter or longer, you have to amend, of course, the amount of rows that you are going to be doing. And of course, you're going to have to make 2 of these panels. So come back to me when you have 2 panels. Okay, so I have my 2 panels here. This is the bit here where we did those 9 rows and then the boxes. And then here, this way, I've got the 9 rows facing this way and then the boxes as well. So this is where I am going to be crocheting them together. So I'm going to lay my pieces of crochet like so, so it's easy for me to work on it. Okay, so we are supposed to be doing a boxes row here because we've done 3 and 3 of the trebles, so there's supposed to be a boxes row, so that's what we are going to be doing. So let's make a slip knot, insert your hook, and let's just attach it onto that first stitch there, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch there so it's attached. Now I'm going to do 3 chains, 1, 2 and 3, and now I'm going to go to the other side into that first stitch as well, and I'm going to do a slip stitch there. There we go. Now I'm going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch here on that same side, and another one there. So really, in a way, we have chained and we have gone to the next location to get started for our stitch. And now we are going to do 2 yarn overs, go back to the previous panel here, skip a stitch, and we are going to insert and do our treble there. See, look. Now slip stitch where the sort of the top of that stitch is supposed to go, and now we slip stitch to skip a stitch, basically. Skip a stitch into this stitch, we do our treble crochet. There we go. Slip stitch in there, slip stitch to skip a stitch and skip a stitch here, insert and do your treble crochet. Continue like this. I think it's looking nice. You can't even tell that these were done in a different way. They're about the same size as the ones in the panels. So I am going to go ahead and do some more and try it on and see how it goes. Okay, so I have just folded it double. I've tried it on and I think this is the height that I want to keep it at. So if you then fold it double, so this is the back, and then this comes over your shoulders and this is at the front. So it's just sort of a couple of stitches away from the actual middle where you can finish crocheting it together. So at the top there I am going to place another treble crochet, so do a slip stitch, then do your treble crochet, but obviously don't make a box, just place it in the next stitch, and this way you are going to be reinforcing that top there, and cut off your yarn really long so that you can sew it in really well there as well, going through the stitch but also going through the stitches on the sides there as well. And so reinforces that last stitch, which of course is going to hold your 2 pieces together. So there we go. So I'm doing this really, really tightly. Look, this is not moving at all. And you can't tell, but yeah, this one is a sort of a double whammy in there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you will enjoy making this poncho, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!